Breaking news. The Office of Management and Budget has rescinded its illegal and unconstitutional guidance suspending all federal grants and loans hours after a federal judge put it on hold. Welcome back to Democracy Docket. I'm Marc Elias.
And I'm Paige Moskowitz. Let's get started.
You know, Paige, the next time I hear someone say that the courts are not up to saving democracy, that Donald Trump will roll right through the federal courts, he won't pay attention to their orders, you know, that there's nothing they can do, I'm going to point them to this video because here we are, Paige, less than 24 hours since a federal judge blocked the Trump effort to illegally and unconstitutionally halt billions of dollars of federal grants from going out the door. They have now rescinded that order. And this is why I always say democracy is on the docket.
Marc, you said they tried to stop billions of dollars, but according to the lawsuit filed by 23 Democratic attorneys general, the memo would have froze up to $3 trillion in funds.
All right. I didn't mean to be, conservative in the estimates, but I'm glad you point that out because this was an extraordinary order, right? I mean, what Donald Trump and his administration were trying to do was, frankly, part of a larger effort to be a dictator, to be an authoritarian ruler. And we've talked in other videos about how they do that through replacing the federal nonpartisan civil service. That's one way to take control. The other way, though, to take control, Paige, is to control the disbursement of funds, right? As you point out, trillions of dollars, right? That the federal government disperses on a regular basis across the wide swaths of federal programs and the economy. And Donald Trump was trying to seize control of that so that he could execute another part of his authoritarian plan, and it failed. But Paige, I have to keep coming back to this point. How many times do you and I hear in comments to videos that we do or in social media or people write into Democracy Docket and doubt that the courts are up to the task? And time again, I feel like I'm the one defending, saying, look, they're not perfect and they're not going to stop everything, but here we are. They managed to end this nonsense.
Right, Marc, this memo was issued late Monday night. We saw 2 lawsuits filed Tuesday. Minutes before the memo was supposed to go into effect at 5 p.m. on Tuesday, a judge blocked it. Now, you also saw the White House on Tuesday swear up and down that this memo was constitutional, that it was legal for the president to do this, that they had complete faith in the memo. It was blocked. The courts blocked it. As the courts have blocked a couple of Trump's major executive orders so far into a second term, we saw a judge in Washington call Trump's birthright citizenship order, quote, blatantly unconstitutional. The judge here in D.C. yesterday wasted no time to block it. Now, she did temporarily pause it until Monday. But Marc, as we've discussed, that was more kind of a procedural matter until a full hearing could be held. It wasn't her saying, I'm kind of wishy-washy on this. It was more, that's just how these things work.
That's right. And, kudos to Democracy Forward, a great nonprofit legal outfit. By the way, I chair their board, but I'd be shouting them out anyway, because they were the ones who led the charge in this case. And they also were involved in the birthright citizen case. And you're going to hear their name a lot. So kudos to them and all the lawyers there. And as you point out, also the state's attorneys general, who have also been, really on the ball in bringing litigation. Paige, I also can't miss the moment here to point out that we heard a lot about how much more competent the Trump administration was going to be this go around. That in the first go round, they were widely seen as sort of buffoonish and didn't know which way was up, but they, this time they were coming in and they had this all lawyered up and they were going to be, super effective. And, you point out the quick turnaround here, like, they have not really hit the ground running. I mean, they've hit the ground running in a sort of a very rhetorical way, in a very, demagoguing issues way. But they're not exactly doing very well in either the effectiveness department or in the truthfulness department.
No, they've hit the ground running straight into a wall. Like their orders are getting blocked. They haven't been successful thus far, even though they're claiming everything they're doing is constitutional, everything that they're doing is legal. And the fact of the matter is, Mark, it's not. The president has a lot of power, but there are limits to that power. And they come in the forms of laws, of the US Constitution, in the way things just work. And it's one thing for Republicans and Democrats to have disagreements on how the president should administer his powers. It's one thing for Republicans to say it's fine for the president to completely disregard the Constitution. And Democrats have to be the ones to say, no, it's not.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because, again, a lot of the political commentary has been very pro-Republican. I mean, the legacy media has capitulated to Donald Trump. I mean, they capitulated to Donald Trump before the election. We saw them, feting Donald Trump all across the board. It's one of the reasons why, we continue to see so much growth in the subscriber and the membership base here at Democracy Docket, because we are giving you pure, unfiltered, pro-democracy news and information that is not afraid and not going to obey Donald Trump. So make sure, if you're not already, you are subscribed. The links are above or in the show notes below to either become a free subscriber or a paid premium member. But Paige, the fact is that not only have they squandered this time by passing executive orders that have now been blocked, but they really haven't taken advantage of the fact they have a congressional majority. I mean, you mentioned laws. Like, as easy as it is to block unconstitutional executive orders or illegal executive orders, it gets much more challenging to block congressional enactments. Now, they can still go to court and they can be challenged as violations of the Constitution, and but that process tends to take much longer because courts tend to assume that Congress's laws are in the first instance proper. And so that litigation we're all used to dragging on for a very long period of time. You would not know from the actions of the Trump White House, or for that matter, Speaker Johnson or John Thune in the Senate, you would not know that they actually control all three parts of the federal government. I mean, why didn't they move this as a bill? Right? Why didn't they just seek to change the law about how money is spent? If there are programs they didn't want money spent on, I mean, they control the House, they control the Senate. And I think the answer is, in part, that they have become so used to being a sycophantic party that they want Donald Trump to get credit for everything. And when a law gets passed, there's credit that gets spread around. That's I think part of it. But the other thing is that fundamentally what they want to do here is unpopular. Like, we cannot escape the fact that Donald Trump may have won an election narrowly, but he did not win an election to shut down Meals on Wheels. He did not win an election to essentially shut down Medicaid in all 50 states. And so I think that's also, Paige, part of the story here that is not being fully told.
Right. We've seen it time and time again. Take the ACA, for example, right? Republicans for years have been talking about how they want to repeal and replace the ACA. They had majorities during Trump's first term. They didn't get it done. They have a majority now. Maybe they'll get it done. But also, as we've just learned, a record number of Americans have signed up for healthcare under the ACA. It is a popular program, and it's a popular way for people to get health insurance, even though it is also a popular talking point for Republicans. And again, to your point, it is a lot easier to blame an executive order that got rescinded for shutting down Medicaid portals yesterday than passing a law that does the same thing. And again, like you said, it's a lot harder to undo a law than undo an executive order.
Yeah, so let's talk about where we go from here. The White House is obviously embarrassed by all of this. They are going to say that nothing has changed, which is a lie, right? But we have to start with the proposition, everyone, that the White House is going to lie. Like, Donald Trump lies about everything. So why isn't he going to lie about this? Right? He prizes people who lie on his behalf, so they will lie about this. So number one, they're going to say this doesn't change anything, and that he is still fully in control and has every a bit of authority and plans to do everything. Don't believe the lies. Okay, this was a big loss for Donald Trump. This was a big victory for the people fighting this executive order in court. And it was a real, I think, victory for the rule of law. Donald Trump lies about everything, so he's going to lie about this. And he prizes people who lie on his behalf, so the White House is going to lie about this. And they're going to say, like, nothing's changed. And I'm here to tell you that that is nonsense. Like, they got themselves slapped around by a federal judge, and that's why they backed away. And they know they'll continue to get slapped around by a federal judge if they try to do this in other forms. So don't let them steal this victory by saying that it's not a victory.
Right, Mark, we're seeing it already. The White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, has posted on X that this is not a rescission of the federal funding freeze, just of the OMB memo to end any confusion created by the court's injunction. She says that the president's executive order on federal funding remains in full force and effect. And once again, you have the Democratic AGs pushing back. New York Attorney General Tish James responded to Leavitt and said, "This just creates more confusion and chaos. We will be in court this afternoon."
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm for Tish James, but let's be clear. The White House is just saying words. It's just like the White House press person is just like literally, this is like the crowd size thing with the first White House press secretary. What was his name? Sean Spicer. Right. I like those are just like a bunch of words strung together to make it sound like something, but that's crazy. I mean, the fact is the federal judge put a hold in place. That hold is still in place. And mark my words, whatever the White House press secretary is saying on X right now is not going to be the position that they take when this all gets sorted out in court, and certainly not by the court rules. So here's the deal, everyone. Make sure you are subscribed to Democracy Docket's free daily and weekly newsletters. And if you want even more premium content, sign up for that as well. But also like this video and make sure you're subscribing to our channel, because there's going to be a lot more coming on this, and Paige and I are going to keep you informed. Thanks for joining us.